We tend to think that everything is separate, that my money is over here on the left-hand side of the screen. My love life is in the middle. My over here on the right, we have our relationship to self, our inner narrative, our background voice. Then down in the left corner, we have our cultural programming. On the right-hand corner, we have our lineage and our genetics. And then, of course, we have consciousness itself. As we're developing magnetism and we're starting to recognize that it's not compartmentalized at all, everything is affecting everything else, then we begin to have a greater sense of what's influencing A, our magnetism, and B, our ability to set intention and receive. So if cultural programming, for instance, tells you that because you are of a certain color or because you grew up in a certain part of the world or neighborhood, you know, it's always going to be really hard, that you have to work really, 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 really hard to ever have something, you know, then you're going to live a life that you have to work really, really hard, and you're going to struggle to make money for all these different ideas that culture put into you. And so you sucked in a belief, a point of view that was never yours to begin with, but yet it ends up affecting your money space, and it will affect your love space, and it will affect many other pieces of your process. And same thing with our love life. We think that, you know, the status of my love life is because, oh, well, I'm now over 40, so no one likes people over 40, and you know, you can't find anybody who doesn't have kids, or, you know, I want kids and they don't. You get into a whole thing about limitation and scarcity and what's true for you. You buy into things that don't necessarily have anything to do with who you are. And then I think the biggest killer is, for many of us, is our relationship to ourself and our inner narrative, our background voice that says, oh yeah, I'm taking this magnetism class, but I don't really think it's going to work. Or, you know, yeah, I started this new program that, you know, I'm going to learn how to be a real estate agent and go sell property and make a bunch of money. But, you know, I don't really, in my back of the mind, there's a dialogue running that says, you know, it's probably not going to work. I'm going to pay the money, I'm going to do the course, but it's probably not going to work. So we self-sabotage before we even get going, and that inner dialogue runs parallel to our process. And you know, we're gonna look at that in just a minute. And then we have a lineage, we have our genetics, whether it's our family history or we won't even go past life, but we have a community. Most of us have a community that they've had their own experience with wealth or abundance or relationships, and it's almost in our DNA, you know, and it's hard to break out of a system that you were born into or that's part of your heritage. So all of these things, depending on who you are, will play into your creative process to some degree, some more than others. Okay, so let me find my chat room again. There we go. Questions about that? Does that make sense? And the point of bringing up interconnectedness is when we start to set intention and we recognize we have these influences. If we think, oh, it's just about my money, I don't know how to manage money, or if you're trying to attract love, you know, it's society is programmed against me, or if you're not paying attention to cultural programming and recognizing your autonomy separate from what culture tells you you're supposed to do and supposed to be, you're going to have a more difficult time of it. So Deja is telling me that this is the first time I'm looking at this idea of interconnectedness on a large scale like this, but it makes sense because all of life is energy. Yes. And I think it's human nature for all of us to look at life through the peephole, like only through our own momentary experience. this moment I need X amount of money to pay my bills, or this moment I am feeling uncomfortable in my body or my skin. And we're focused on just the moment we are in, not recognizing it's part of a greater landscape that we're living inside of. And that was, again, part of the exercise we did at the very beginning of, recognizing we're part of a greater reality, and then being able to watch our thoughts. We become so entrenched in our thoughts. We think they're all true, and we don't recognize that we are separate from our thoughts. And that's so much the part of abundance training itself, is learning how to separate from your thoughts so that you can choose freedom from a free place, that you're not influenced by any of these features.